Welcome to Conscious Movie Reviews. I'm your host Joy Davis, and here to review the sci-fi action and adventure drama Avengers Endgame. I'll explain how some of the film's scenes relate to quantum physics. Adrift in space and nearly out of oxygen, Iron Man and Nebula were rescued by Captain Marvel. They reunited with the remaining Avengers on Earth to plan a surprise attack against Thanos, but was too late. He had used the 6 Infinity Stones one last time for their destruction, making it impossible for the Avengers to reverse the snap that decimated half of all beings throughout the universe. Thanos defended his actions by saying, "I am inevitable," before getting decapitated by Thor's hammer. Carol Danvers as Captain Marvel can be seen as Marvel's answer to their version of DC Comics' Superman. They can both fly, move faster than a locomotive, bend steel, and are influenced by radiation from a stone of alien origin. Thanos' last statement before dying suggested that he understood himself to be an inevitable manifestation of the collective, dreamed long ago into existence by the social consciousness, so we can play out our most selfish desires for power and reveal a death wish that's buried in the collective subconscious for greater awareness. Scott Lang's return from the quantum realm seemed more like 5 hours instead of 5 years. He was so relieved to see that his daughter survived the snap. Showing up at the Avengers' compound, Scott provided hope with his idea of going back in time through the quantum realm to undo the tragedies committed by Thanos. From a spiritual perspective, the quantum realm is a field of possibilities of many dimensions and pocket universes. Out of this void, God can choose the best possible circumstances for your life that's in accordance with your spiritual unfoldment and good for all concerned, following the laws of karma. The team was in favor of Scott's plan except Tony Stark. He could not sacrifice his life to do a time heist for the Infinity Stones, now that he's a father. The Avengers needed to enlist Bruce Banner, the next best intellectual. He looked happier at the restaurant for merging with his Hulk self. Even though the mechanics of time travel was out of his league, he agreed to help. The merging of Bruce Banner with the Hulk relates to how you can be both a particle and a wave in quantum physics. There are no split personalities. We can learn from him about embracing our shadow self to grow in emotional intelligence, because many of us spend a lot of time running away from or rationalizing who we are that we don't like. At the new Asgard settlement in Norway, Thor looked obese. He blamed himself for not killing Thanos in Wakanda when it really mattered, so he drank heavily from self-blame and regret. Rocket's offer of beer did the trick, enticing him for a meet-up with the other Avengers. Black Widow found Hawkeye in a bloody sword fight with a gang member in Tokyo. He was acting as a ruthless vigilante against criminals of the underworld to cope with the loss of his family. Thor and Hawkeye are examples of how to die subtle deaths daily whenever we operate from our emotional woundings that close off the heart. Self-help expert Temple Hayes teaches that we can retrieve the fragmented parts of ourselves to get our personal power back. It's through self-forgiveness and wholehearted universal trust that must be exercised like a muscle to dissolve all fear. The painful memory of losing Peter Parker was enough to change Tony's mind. He joined in the effort, working with theoretical models to improve upon Lang's version of a time tunnel. Quantum physics theorists and spiritual masters throughout the ages seem to agree that time is really an illusion. As a function of the mechanistic mind that exists in third-dimensional reality, time appears linear but isn't. Within every moment, you'll find the past, present, and future playing out all at once. When we get past the limitations of the mind, we can view events from Soul's perspective that's more holistic to receive prophetic dreams and déjà vu. For the mission, each one of the Avengers had to partner up with another to retrieve a specific Infinity Stone from the past. They only had one shot and one round trip, making it the fight of their lives. When Rhodes headed to Morag in 2014 for the Power Stone with Nebula, her system had malfunctioned. She was left behind for Thanos to scan her memory files as a hologram, viewing the future events of Nebula acting as an ally of the Avengers against him. By taking her vial of PIM particles, loyal Nebula of the past traveled through the quantum tunnel to serve as Thanos' spy. Based on quantum physics, this scene is a show of Heisenberg's uncertainty principle that proves how a particle's mass, which is a form of energy, can be expressed as a frequency. The uncertainty in mass is considered a frequency spread, also known as bandwidth. So Nebula acted as a Wi-Fi system for Thanos to access valuable information from her. By sharing the same network, they affected each other, similar to how Einstein's spooky action at a distance theory explains quantum entanglement. Entanglement occurs when two quantum particles interact with each other so that their quantum states become interdependent. Nebula of the past can affect her future self through their entangled memories to function as one system, no matter how far apart they are. This is also where science meets spirituality to prove that we're all not separate from one another, but interconnected as beings of energy, frequency, and vibration. Arriving at the Sanctum Sanctorum in 2012, the Ancient One was resistant about giving up the Time Stone to Bruce Banner. She explained that it would create another timeline off the main one that would prevent Doctor Strange's future efforts of stopping Caecilius from destroying the laws of nature, leading to chaos. The Ancient One was referring to the many worlds theory in quantum physics that is based on the scientific belief of a multiverse where all possible histories could branch out. Going back to the past was an opportunity for some of the Avengers to feel whole again. Captain America's quest for the Space Stone at a U.S. Army installation in the 1970s allowed him to see Peggy Carter, his first true love. A calling from the heart, he knew that being with her would fulfill him the most. Tony got to reconnect with his father, Howard Stark, who had a history of being emotionally distant and unavailable. The conversation with him this time was light, but enough to feel secure from Howard's intentions of doing anything for his child that's about to be born. As for Thor, he showed up in Asgard to get the Reality Stone on the day before his mother's death. She gave her wise counsel because he admitted to being a failure. By telling him in a loving way that the measure of a hero is how they succeed at who they are, he felt worthy again. This was confirmed when Thor was able to retrieve his hammer on command. With all of the Infinity Stones in the Avengers' possession, Tony Stark fashioned a gauntlet to set them in. Because the Incredible Hulk had the capacity to withstand the gamma radiation to do a snap, he brought back half of all the beings in the universe who had disappeared 5 years ago. That's when Thanos showed up with his army for a surprise attack against the Avengers at their headquarters. During battle, Doctor Strange was asked about the outcome of all this. He refused to say because if he did, it won't happen. This scene relates to the observer's paradox in quantum physics, proving that we're energy beings who can affect an outcome when it's being watched or observed. Within the film, 2 of the Avengers die. Black Widow sacrificed her life at Vormir for Hawkeye to receive the Soul Stone, and Iron Man lost his from overexposure to the stone's radiation when he snapped Thanos and his army to dust. Of all the Avengers, Black Widow and Iron Man have been on a personal path of redemption. They've both been compromised to have red in their ledger. Tony used his talents for manufacturing weapons of mass destruction, and Natasha was a double agent trained to kill. In order to wipe it off their karmic records, they made the ultimate sacrifice that would right the wrongs of their past for the scales to balance. After Iron Man's funeral, there was a changing of the guard. Thor gave up his reign for Valkyrie to be the Queen of New Asgard so he can join the Guardians of the Galaxy. That's a quest to discover his new life purpose. And when Steve came back from his mission of returning Thor's hammer and the Infinity Stones to their original timelines, he appeared as an elderly man from having spent years in the past with his beloved Peggy Carter. He was too old to assume his role as Captain America, so he bestowed the mantle and shield to Sam for being worthy.